everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single Wednesday on this channel where we just geek out about comic books, and we are still riding on that DC Rebirth hype train because DC Comics has come out and they have announced not just each of the books that are going to be coming out in their line-wide relaunch that begins this June, but they have also announced the pitch of each of these books as well as the creative teams behind it, and I decided I was going to go down that list of every single one of these books and give you my take on each of these books, and I started last week. In last week's episode, I started talking about all the books that will be coming out in June, and I said that I was going to cover June and July, but I geeked out so much at the announcements behind these books that I only really had time to cover June. So today, I'm going to try and cover July, and maybe even a little bit of August, but as we saw last week, no promises. I'm going to try and get all the way through July. I can promise you that much. And then from there, who knows? Should be fun. Now the first book up is Batgirl. Batgirl is going to be drawn by Raphael Albuquerque, who is very talented, and it's going to be written by Hope Larson. Now Hope Larson has never actually written a superhero comic book before, or any monthly comic at all. She has only written her own original graphic novels, none of which I have read. So next book. I'm just kidding, but yeah, I don't know anything about her. I've heard of her books, but that doesn't mean anything. So I have hopes. You know, she published her own books. That's really something. Good. I will say, however, that the pitch of the book is Batgirl backpacking, try saying that 5 times fast, all across Asia, which I think is kind of cool. I think it's actually going to be really interesting to see that character out of Gotham and in a completely different country for not just like one issue or one storyline, but for an entire run on a book. I don't know how long they plan on having that storyline last, but they made it sound like this is going to be definitely more than just 6 issues, more than just one trade. So I'd be really interested with all the different places that they could take her and seeing how she adapts to each of the new environments that she's in. So yeah, okay, that sounds fun. Alright. Again, I really have nothing else to base this book on. Can we move on to the next one? It feels weird having a subject this short on the show. Next up is Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, which is going to be written by Julie and Shauna Benson, who are 2 of the writers on the CW show The 100, which is a show I have not seen. So, next book. Why did I think that this episode was going to run long? Okay, yes, I know it's another writing team who I have no personal experience with, so I can't really comment on them. However, I can comment on this team, and this team looks pretty good. It's Batgirl. We all know Batgirl. Okay, that's easy enough. Then it's Black Canary, and Black Canary, she's still rocking that rocker look. I didn't think that sentence out before I started. She still has that rocker look that she had in her last ongoing series, and I really enjoy that. I've actually talked about that series a lot on this channel, so I'm glad to see that they're sticking with that. And then it is Helena Bertinelli returning as the Huntress, and that's awesome. I think that the Huntress is a really cool character, and in the New 52, we've had not the same Huntress that I wanted, because originally we had the Huntress who was the daughter of Batman and Catwoman from an alternate reality, which in all fairness, that's how the Huntress started, like decades ago, but that ain't the Huntress that we all wanted. The Huntress that we wanted was Helena Bertinelli, and then we got Helena Bertinelli, but she was now working as a spy, and it just, you know, she was very cool. She was very cool in Grayson. I really liked reading her in Grayson, but the whole time I was like, put her in the costume. Just put her in the costume. And then I remember what the costume looked like, and I was like, redesign the costume. Redesign the costume, and then give her the Huntress costume, and have her be Huntress. And that's what they've done. Yeah, as I said, I liked Helena Bertinelli. I liked the character of the Huntress, but she always had a costume that had stuff to it that I did like, and then they just took a pair of scissors to it, and just, yeah, you know. So I'm glad to see that this one kind of kept a lot of the stuff that I liked about it and made it look really badass. I think that this is one of the best redesigns of this reboot so far. Also, most important thing that we have to mention about the new Birds of Prey series is that Oracle is back. The very first storyline is them on the lookout for Oracle, and this is great because Oracle was such an important part of the DC Comics universe, and part of that was because it was Barbara Gordon. And because of all the stuff that went into Barbara Gordon's past and what led her to being Oracle and the strength that she showed as that character. So we all loved Oracle, but this isn't going to be Barbara Gordon. But even if it isn't Barbara Gordon, we still just need an Oracle. We still just need somebody who the superheroes can put their finger to their ear and talk into their microphone and go, yeah, Oracle, okay, what's the intel on this? Alright, got it. We need that character. And they're going to bring it back, so awesome. If I had to take a guess at who the new Oracle will be, I'd say it's probably going to be Frankie, which is a supporting character in the current Batgirl series, and she has actually been providing intel to Batgirl, and actually kind of been her tech guy on the phone with her. So yeah, it would make sense for her to be the new Oracle. Next up is Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, and it's being written by Robert Venditti, who is the guy who has been writing Green Lantern ever since Jeff Johns left, and I find that odd because there's a few people who are working on the current series who are sticking around after the relaunch, but they're people who are fairly new to these books, or they're people who are like, no, this is the character that I write and I'm known for writing this character, like Harley Quinn. She's keeping her creative team, so it's like, alright, that's fine. Robert Venditti has been writing Green Lantern for a really long time, and it's not like what he's writing is bad, it's not, but he's not the guy who's like, oh yeah, that's the Green Lantern guy. You could easily have brought in someone new, and this seemed like a good opportunity for it. Seems weird to me that they're keeping him around. But I will say this about Robert Venditti's run on Green Lantern. It's very hard for me to read. And not because it's bad. It's not. It's just, it followed up Jeff Johns' amazing run, and at the end of his run, he did what I have asked many creators to do, and he actually wrote an ending. His last issue of Green Lantern literally ends with him writing how the story of every single Green Lantern will end, and he put just a big fat wrap up on the entire franchise. And Robert Venditti came in and was like, now what am I supposed to do with this? And yeah, he just had the misfortune of being that guy who had to come in and now write after the ending had already been put in place. So I tried reading it, and I was like, this isn't bad. I like some of the new characters he's introducing. It's fine. But yeah, man, how are you gonna follow that? So I'm hoping that after this little relaunch, it will make it seem more fresh and like he's not just the guy coming in after Jeff Johns. Maybe that's why they're letting him continue to write. Because the guy just hasn't really had a shot to be him. So, yeah, okay, I'll check it out. But it is just really hard for me to read any Hal Jordan stories from this point on. Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz, I'm totally looking forward to them, because I haven't read their stories yet. But Hal Jordan is like, I don't really need any more stories from this guy. So yeah, maybe that's just me. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about that. Speaking of creators who are going to continue to write these characters into the new Rebirth, James Tynion and Ming Doyle will not be continuing to write John Constantine in Hellblazer. This to me is a massive mistake, because I have a big problem with the whole idea of John Constantine existing in the DC universe and not in the Vertigo universe, because that dude needs to be R-rated. He can't be in this PG-13 DC Comics world. It just doesn't feel right to me. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of his books have had problems selling, is that the old fans of the character just look at it as like, that's not the thing I like. Even if you're capturing the tone of it, it's not the thing that I want. However, I will say, James Tynion and Ming Doyle's Constantine the Hellblazer has easily been as close as we are ever going to get to that character being his old Vertigo self in the DC Comics universe. And for some reason, even though this book has been wildly acclaimed and people have loved it, they're not writing it in this new Rebirth. Yeah, I'm a little bit miffed about that. So, they're not writing it. And the new Hellblazer series is still part of DC Comics. It's still not Vertigo. Even though it started off when it was Vertigo, it was just Hellblazer. Then when it became a DC Comics book, it was John Constantine. Then they tried relaunching it again as John Constantine, the Hellblazer. And now it is back to just being Hellblazer. Just put it in Vertigo already. Just do it! You've tried everything to make this book sell in DC Comics. It ain't gonna happen. Just put it back in Vertigo, and all the people who were already reading it when it was a DC Comics book, they will gladly go and read it when it's Vertigo. This doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, Simon Oliver is writing it, and he wrote a Hellblazer miniseries back when it was in Vertigo, so there's that. And I heard good things about his FBP series. Next book. Alright, this is the big one. Everybody was asking, who are they going to get on Justice League? This is their big flagship book. It's the one that everybody was curious, who is their top writer? Is it gonna be Scott Snyder? Everybody thinks it's gonna be Scott Snyder. You gonna put him on there? Oh, who else could be in the running? Oh man, Secret Six isn't returning. Maybe Gail Simone's getting back on there. Oh, who could write this book? It's Brian Hitch. Literally nobody was going to say that. So yeah, Brian Hitch, the artist, is going to be writing Justice League, and he has for the last couple of issues been writing JLA. But let's be honest, they let him write that because they wanted him to also draw it, because he is indeed an amazing artist. So yeah, I'll admit, I was super skeptical about him writing a Justice League story, mostly because he has written some stuff for Image before, and I never really cared for any of it, so I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna be good. I gotta admit, his JLA is actually pretty good. It is. It is an old school Justice League series. This guy actually did work on Justice League in the pre-New 52 era, and he worked out with Mark Waid, and he actually did some great stories with Mark Waid on that book. And I guess he must have been taking notes, because this actually does remind me of that era of Justice League, which is kind of what this Rebirth is trying to remind us of. It's trying to remind us of those better days, back when the Justice League was this big, great book that took on these giant threats, and you just felt like you were reading about heroes in every single issue. Yeah, his run has actually kind of felt like that. It's actually had a really cool villain in there. It's the god of Krypton coming down to Earth and slowly converting everyone on Earth to his followers. It's cool. I gotta admit it. I'm eating crow on this one. I was wrong about it. So yeah, if he can continue to do this in the new Justice League series and continue to bring back that old Justice League flavor that we love so much, okay. Yeah, I know when I started talking about this book, I made it sound like I was going to be negative on Brian Hitch, but I learned my lesson. So far, the guy has proved that he can write Justice League. Gotta give it to him. Next up is going to be Nightwing. Now, Nightwing is going to be written by Tim Seeley, and Tim Seeley has had a very interesting career. He's basically written kind of a grab bag of a selection. Like, he'll write one thing that's this kind of book, then one thing that's this kind of book, then one thing that's that kind of book. And the quality of these books tend to kind of range that far as well. He's written some truly amazing stuff. He's written some very forgettable stuff, but who cares? Okay, this isn't the guy who I would have pictured on this book, but let's be honest, you could have had a potted cactus writing this book. No one would have cared, because the number one thing that anyone is talking about with this book is Dick Grayson is back as Nightwing, and he's back in blue, alright? It feels so good to see this again. Like I said, no disrespect to Tim Seeley, but this book, just by putting Dick Grayson back in that role and having him have the old Nightwing costume again, it overshadows anything else you could have announced about this book, alright? I don't care what the pitch of this book is, I don't care who's going to end up writing it 10 issues from now, I don't care what Dan DiDio's going to come in and tell him to do a Nightwing. This book has Nightwing back in that role that fans love him in, and it just shows that DC is going, yeah, we want that back. We want that era in which you loved us, in which we were getting everything right. We want it back. And also, as I said, it's not just that he's Nightwing again. It's that he's the blue Nightwing. I know that the red Nightwing costume, it does look pretty cool. I'll give you that. It does not look like Dick Grayson, though. Red and black going around at night, that's more of a Daredevil thing. That's more of a kind of violent, angry vigilante kind of thing. It's not Nightwing. It's not the guy who has been the beacon of hope in the darkness that is the Batman universe. It's not that character. Blue is a hopeful color. It's a lighthearted color. It's an upbeat and fun color. I know it doesn't sound like much, but just by putting him back in that, it really does kind of give me hope for this character again. And just going back to what I've been saying all of this time about the old Jim Lee New 52 designs compared to these new designs, it feels so good for me to see Dick Grayson, an acrobat, wearing an agile superhero costume. Not one that looks metallic, not one that's covered in lines, not one that makes no sense for an acrobat to wear. I look at this costume and go, that's Dick Grayson, and that's all I need to know about this book. Okay, now I've been super excited about a lot of these books. There's also been some other books in which I was like, whatever. this is the book that I am easily the most hesitant about. It's Red Hood and the Outlaws, and it's being written by Scott Lobdell. Yeah, okay, I know that there are a lot of people out there who like the Red Hood and the Outlaw series by Scott Lobdell. I was not one of them, and also, this is not the Red Hood that I want to see. Like, even if I like the way that Scott Lobdell wrote these characters, and I like the storylines they set up for them, the Red Hood that they have created for the New 52 universe is not the Red Hood who I enjoyed. It's not the Red Hood that I wanted to see them have. And it doesn't look like they're going to be switching them back. It looks like it's still going to be that New 52, just, hey, I'm a vigilante with guns kind of Red Hood. It's like, alright, fine, that's what you want to do. Also, why do you keep calling them the Outlaws? They're the Outsiders, for God's sakes. We know what you're doing. Just call them the Outsiders, for crying out loud. However, there is something that I am very intrigued about with this, which is that this is a whole new Outlaws team, and it is Scott Lobdell writing it, and one of the people on the team is Bizarro, and this has me intrigued for one reason. You remember a couple of episodes ago in which I was talking about the DC Rebirth, and I said that the New 52 was something that they planned literally in 2 months. It was not something that they had set up this entire time and had worked a year on. No, it was literally a last minute thing, and because of that, there were several books that were supposed to be coming out that were going to be set in the old pre-52 universe. There were many writers and many artists who had already started working on books and pitches before this happened, and one of those books was going to be a Scott Lobdell Doom Patrol book. And in that series, he was going to have Bizarro in there. And part of the pitch for his Bizarro was that, just like Superman, he would want to have a secret identity, including the glasses and the suit. However, because he's Bizarro, he goes around all the time dressed as Bizarro, and then when it's time for action, that's when he would dress up in his secret identity, and he'd go out and fight like that. Which to me is actually a really clever and fun idea. So seeing that Bizarro is going to be in this book actually has me wondering, are you going to do that? Because I'll give you a pass if you're going to do that. I'll read your book. I'm going to read it anyways, but I will read it with intrigue and hope if that's what you're going to do, because that sounds fun. Now, the last book that we're going to talk about in July is New Superman from Gene Luen Yang. Now, this book was originally going to be called The Superman, and I have to say, just from the point of view of a retailer, thank you for changing the name on this. Because I understand why you would want to call it The Superman. I do, I understand that. But you have to understand, from someone who works in a comic book store, if someone came into my store asking for Superman, that would not narrow it down. They come in and ask for New Superman, that one I know what they're talking about. So thank you for that. Now, New Superman is all about this brand new character living in Hong Kong, and he has Superman-like powers and abilities, and it's being written by Gene Luen Yang, and this has me very excited because he wrote another series out there called Shadow Hero, and it was an amazing book. It was based on an older character, but it was his own interpretation of it, and it was him coming in basically creating this brand new character, and it was a fantastic read. I loved it, and a lot of people really did compare it to Superman, and I could see that. So, when DC came in and they said, we want you to write Superman, I was super excited. I was like, this guy's gonna be a perfect fit. And then he was not really a perfect fit. I hate saying it, but his Superman was not good. It wasn't. However, New Superman is a brand new character that he's creating that is somewhat based on a previous character with comparisons to Superman. This actually lines up a lot with Shadow Hero, and I am really excited for that now. Okay, yes, I was a little bit hesitant on him writing any more Superman stuff, but this is not more Superman stuff. This is his own creation, and I have seen that this guy can come up with some great creations. So yes, I am very excited for this book. Okay, that's it everybody. We got through July. I'm going to have to save the rest of this for part 3, so come back next week to see everything that comes out in August, September, and October. We are in the final stretch here, people. Don't give up on me now. Make sure you click that subscribe so that you can see those. And if you like this episode, then make sure that you share this all around the web. It's the best way to help out this channel. Every time that you guys do it, I really appreciate it because it really does help. Thank you very much, and if you want to see more from me, then make sure that you click on the other videos at the end of this. Thanks everyone, bye.